Hey guys, good morning and welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna do a video that it's a little bit spicy, I would say, but it's also going to be very honest. We're gonna talk about 10 eat bags that at the time they felt like the bag of the moment. They felt like they were going to be a forever bag, they were going to be a classic, the best investment that you could make for your closet, and that right now you just don't see anymore. But before we start, I do want to say I owned 80% of these bags, and I don't want to make this video basically saying that if you have these bags, you have to sell them. They're not pretty anymore. They're not good anymore, because I own these bags. At some point, I loved them so much. I recommended them, and they were a need bag for a reason. So many of these are going to come back, especially the first one. I have a really strong feeling that if you hold on to it, it's gonna come back around in a couple of years, but this is fashion. Fashion comes and goes. Anything that was super trendy in the 90s is trendy once again. So I'm going to base this video a bit more into the terms of this bag was absolutely everything. Now you don't see it anymore, and the price point where it was on the resale market when the trend started versus now has definitely dropped. And honestly, some of these bags really hurt because they were my babies. Like, I saved. Many of these were also the first handbags that I've ever bought. So with that being said, let's start with the Gucci Marmont. Guys, I was obsessed. I went above and beyond to get the Gucci Marmont. I first got it in black velvet. I regretted it. I returned that one and I got it in the regular black leather. And I wanted that bag in red. I also had the mini version. I wanted that bag in so many different prints and colors, especially when they came out in the different colors. When it launched in 2016, under Alessandro Michel's Maximalist era at Gucci, the Marmont was everything. It was the belts, it was the shoes, it was the thing to have. It was the handbag that everyone wanted. Absolutely everyone had it. Influencers, editors, celebrities. It was kind of like the Instagram and Pinterest bag. You could see it absolutely everywhere, and I absolutely loved mine the time that I had it. And I actually remember thinking that it was the next classic flop, but for Gucci. And for the price point, it was relatively entry luxury compared to Chanel and Dior, for example. It was definitely a bag that was recognizable, and it came in a million colors and different styles, so you had everything to pick. So if you were someone that really liked pink, you definitely had a pink one. If you liked suede, you had a suede one. There were a few satin ones that were gorgeous, and it was also a bag that was comfortable and very easy to style. But as fashion started to move away from logos, the big GG started to look a little bit too much, and the Gucci Marmont also felt very saturated. You were a little bit tired of seeing it absolutely everywhere, and the reality is that on the resale market it literally dropped. So many people started to sell their Gucci Marmont bags that you could see it flooding resale websites, and that is usually the combo on how to basically kill a handbag. I stuck with mine for quite a bit until I started implementing the one in and one out policy, but to be completely honest, the Gucci Marmont, I think it's an amazing handbag. It is really well made. It was very functional. It was very comfortable. And I truly believe that it's going to have a comeback because it was just so iconic. But the truth is that it did not really become a timeless bag. Number 2, I will have to apologize in advance because I never liked this bag. I've always been very open about it. And it was the Louis Vuitton multi-pochette accessoire. When I see this bag, I really just think about the pandemic. I don't know why. There's a literal connection between this bag and the pandemic in my head. There's so many reasons why I never liked the bag, but this was the bag. It was so hard to find, especially the one with the pink strap. I never really understood why everyone loved it, because for me it just felt very messy and very fussy. It had so many different attachments and compartments, so it would never fit anything really big. I didn't like the strap. I in general don't like straps that are like fabric because you're gonna stain them, and they also look a little bit like an outfit killer in my opinion. But there was no way of escaping seeing this bag on social media back in 2019 and 2020. But with the monogram, the pouches, the multiple attachments, and on top of it, many people would add charms to the bag. I understand that it can be like something different. I never really got it, and I don't see it anymore. I don't think I have seen anyone wearing this bag in the last 2 years. And the thing is that Louis Vuitton has so many iconic silhouettes already. We have the Speedy, we have the Neverfull, we have the Capucines, that when you add something like this and expect it to take a place next to this one, I think it just did not really make the cut. And now I don't really know if it's produced anymore, but it did not become a classic. This one is actually really sad for me, but it's the Chanel boy bag. I really thought that the Chanel boy bag was going to be a classic. It was always going to be next to the Chanel classic flap, and at one point it really felt untouchable, because when you see the classic flap, you see a very feminine, a very mature bag, and then you had the boy bag, and it was like a really edgy version, a little bit more tomboy, more wearable for every day, and I loved it. The boy bag launched in 2011 under Karl Lagerfeld. It was supposed to be a knit bag, and for many years it actually was. I remember that the old medium was the size, because there was old medium and new medium. The old medium was like that sweet spot when it came to the size of the bag. I also really liked the smaller one. It was really cute. Absolutely everyone wanted the black caviar with gold hardware, and I think it's very tied to a very specific era of Chanel, that is from 2014 to 2018, where everything was just very structured, very bold hardware, very cool girl type of vibe. And now that fashion has softened a little bit and we're going into softer materials, a little bit more delicate silhouettes, and not as edgy, I feel like that's what happened. Of course, it doesn't look bad. It's an absolutely beautiful bag, but it definitely doesn't really fit into what fashion is right now. It reminds me a lot to 2016 with the thick chain, the thick hardware, and same goes to the resale value. It just dropped, but overall, the resale value on Chanel dropped massively when they kept pushing the price increases. So people started to see Chanel less and less as something that they would buy every single time that they would drop a collection, because the price point was too high, that they moved into Hermes, that caused another issue by itself, but that is for another video and another topic. So yeah, the boy bags retail right now is super high, and nobody is really buying it. Nobody is really using it as much, so it is not a knit bag anymore. However, with this one, I do want to point that I do feel like it's a classic that is on the freezer, and that it will unfreeze also at some point. Number 4 is the YSL LouLou, and I had this bag. I had it in the toy size in this beautiful black velvet. The only reason why I ended up selling that bag is because I have 2 golden retrievers, one of them being here, the other one being right there, and they shed a lot. And as you can imagine, black velvet to goldens is not the best combination. YSL had for a bit like a really big high, and then suddenly it's just been a brand that it's been on a flop era for quite a while. But the YSL LouLou had everyone in a chokehold, because when it came out, it felt like the perfect in between. It was not expensive like Chanel, but it was definitely way better than going for Coach or Kate Spade. It was very luxurious, it was soft, it was feminine. It had all of the classic aspects that you would want onto a handbag, and YSL has always been that brand. And this one falls on the category of the pillow curse. These bags were really popular between 2018 and 2021, and by pillow bags I mean all of these puffy quilted bags. The Chanel 19 also falls under this category. Any bag that you can see on this shape, you can see that right now it is not as trendy anymore, and the YSL LouLou is just like the perfect example of it. These were bags that you would definitely style with the oversized blazers, a slick back bun, maybe a pair of gold hoops. I loved this bag so much because they are comfortable, they are soft bags that wear quite well over time, so there's really nothing wrong with them. It's just that the trend evolved away from this style of bags. Fashion leaned away from logos, so it had the YSL on the clasp, so that was also a factor that dated the bag really quickly. But again, if you own the YSL LouLou or the Chanel 19, I still have a Chanel 19 bag and I absolutely love it. I will keep it forever because it works for me, It is a beautiful bag that I just love using. I don't base my purchases into trends, but definitely also when it comes to the 19 bag, it did not become the Eid bag classic that we were all expecting. So same goes for the YSL LouLou and many YSL bags that were very similar to this one. I've talked about this one quite a lot recently, but the Dior book Tote is going to be the number 5. This bag, I still love it. It is not a good purchase by any means. It is a very structured bag that you cannot travel with because the handles, you cannot really fold them. It is very, very delicate because it is beautiful, but it's so delicate. You're gonna stain it. I stained mine. I had it in multiple sizes. It didn't work out for me because it's not a bag that you can put on the floor. It's not comfortable on the shoulder. It is what it says. It is a book tote. It's not meant to be practical. It's meant to be like a novelty bag because it is really, really beautiful. And when it launched in 2018 under Maria Grazia Cutie, it felt so fresh. It was so different from anything that we had. We were so into the teeny tiny bag era, and then we come with a book tote that was like so over the top with the embroidery and so many different designs. It was just what we needed at the time, and I personally loved it, and I love it to this day. The ones that were released under Jonathan Anderson's last collection, absolutely beautiful. I also really loved the personalization option, but this was the bag that became too much. You would see it everywhere. It was replicated so much in every way. You would see it as fakes, as dupes on Zara, because it was so popular and it was such a boom that definitely it kind of saturated the market. And also it was not the most user-friendly handbag. For what I see now, the ones that Jonathan Anderson released, they have a strap that I still don't love. I really love the book tote for what it is. So when the freshness died down, you definitely saw it on the resale market, on people stopping buying it, on people stopping wearing it. There's definitely people that absolutely love it. My mother-in-law adores her book tote because it fits her lifestyle so well. Now me, on the other side, I just found it so hassly that I just had to let it go. But this bag definitely had a massive moment and I was a really big fan. I'm always so tempted to get another one, but I keep telling myself that I shouldn't because it is just not practical for me. Now with this bag, I'm a little bit conflicted. This is the Louis Vuitton Petite Malle. I remember wanting this bag from the moment that I liked handbags. It launched with Nicolas Ghesquière in the fall winter of 2014, and it was basically Louis Vuitton's heritage turned into a tiny, beautiful, wearable piece. And I still kind of want that bag. I need to admit that. Till this day, I still want it. Is it a neat bag? Is it a classic? Maybe not, but I want it because it taps into the heritage of the brand. So Louis Vuitton made trunks. They made travel pieces, and this is like taking one of these trunks and just making it really little and you can wear it as a crossbody. It is the most impractical bag that you can find out there. I've tried it on at the store so many times, and yeah, I don't think it's practical because of the structure that it has. I own the boîte chapeau and I love it, but this wasn't just a bag, it was a statement. And for a while I thought that it was going to be like the Louis Vuitton bag that everyone had to have. It was a statement. It had an editorial energy and it was an investment for your closet. Nowadays, I don't know anyone that owns the bag. I still kind of want it, but I'm always on the fence because I know that it's going to fit absolutely nothing. It's one of those bags that it's more concept rather than real life. So for me, the Petite Malle is a perfect example of a bag that is iconic. It is timeless in my opinion, but not necessarily a smart investment or a bag that you're gonna get out the cusper wear. Number 7 is the Chanel Gabrielle, and this one I actually never owned. I was never very interested on it because I don't like the crumpled calfskin, so that's also why I was never really into the reissue, but I kind of appreciated the bag. When it launched in 2017, it was placed as the new modern classic. It had the mix of metals on the bag, different chains. It was very structured at the base, but the leather was really soft on the sides. It was very different from what was out there at the time. And the way that you would wear it was also kind of cool. And it felt really fresh because it had a really strong personality to the style of the bag. and it was not really trying to be the Chanel classic flap. And then it quietly disappeared. They discontinued the bag in 2023 for some reason that honestly, I don't know. When a brand that powerful stops producing a bag that was supposed to be an icon is quite telling. Now, I don't really think that the bag is ugly. I actually think that it's a really cool bag to see out and about. I don't see it as much as I wish that I would. Yeah, it definitely did not become the next classic. However, it did have its moment, and I really like the in-between it had with the boy bag and the classic flap. Number 8, and I was a really big hater of this bag, but it was the Bottega Veneta padded cassette, especially the one with the chunky chain. It was so expensive, and the chain was so heavy. And I know this is controversial because when Daniel Lee released this bag in 2019, it was absolutely everywhere, same as the dumpling pouch. I don't recall the name. It was the oversized intrecciato wave that I love. Intrecciato, I have so many Bottega Veneta bags with intrecciato, but it was the padded intrecciato in such a big size that for me it kind of felt like a beach chair. I don't know. It always would be in the brightest greens, and the chain was so chunky, so uncomfortable, so heavy. This was just not a practical bag. It was kind of the definition of the new Bottega, and people were obsessed with it. But for me, it always felt very trend driven and not really a potential classic like the Jody or the Andiamo. And also kind of like the multi-pochette accessoire. This one reminds me a lot to the pandemic with the pouch. Like, I loved seeing handbag spill and pictures of handbags in general during the pandemic, and this one was definitely one of those that was absolutely everywhere. However, we don't see it anymore. This is a bag that definitely just died. The resale market is flooded with them and nobody's really buying them anymore. And Bottega Veneta is a brand that I really stand by their quality. They're just amazing bags. They're so beautiful, incredibly well made. However, this one was always kind of like a no for me. Number 9 is the Valentino Rockstud. And the Valentino Rockstud for me was like an era that gives me a lot of nostalgia. This was from like 2014 to 2017, especially the Rockstud shoes. I had the sneakers. I never really had the bag, but the bags were like Tumblr. If you were into fashion, you were into the Valentino Rockstud in that time. It was like feminine but rough. Like, thinking back on it, the way that we were dressing, this bag reflected perfectly everything that represents, especially 2016. It gave a cool energy without needing a logo. You just knew that that was Valentino. And now it's just very dated. It is coming back though, I do have to note on that. So hold on to your Rockstuds because I feel like it might be something that comes back. Maybe it's not for me anymore, but definitely it was for me back in 2016. I was so obsessed. It was supposed to be an iconic bag that was going to stay forever. It didn't, but I definitely enjoyed and appreciate the time and using them. They were absolutely iconic pieces. And the last one is going to be the Gucci Dionysus bag. This one feels a little bit more classic than the rest, to be completely honest. This bag was very powerful when it came out. When Alessandra Michele took over Gucci in 2015, the Dionysus became like the representation of that era. It was the GG Supreme canvas. It felt very dramatic, it felt vintage, it felt editorial. I remember seeing this bag everywhere during Fashion Week, and it was the Gucci bag before the Marmont basically took over. But again, this was a bag that was really busy with the monogram, with the clasp. Some of them had a lot of flowers. This was just a bag that had a lot of things into it that made it really special, but also that made it very dated. Again, this is a very structured bags, and when silhouettes switched to something softer and just cleaner, this bag felt saturated. And also I have to note that it was really heavy. It didn't fit much, so it was not the most effortless everyday bag, just FYI. And it's just a bag that I don't really see as much anymore. I see a little bit more potential on the Marmont coming back than this one. However, we do have to recognize that it had its moment and that it was amazing. Especially the GG Supreme canvas was like absolutely everywhere and I loved it. Especially the ones that had the bees. The Gucci era with the bees, absolutely my favorite. But yeah, it's definitely not a knit bag anymore. So these were the 10 bags. I would love to hear you guys out in the comment section down below. Let's discuss if maybe I missed one, maybe you don't agree with me. As I said, I honestly feel like if you have and love any of these bags, fashion doesn't really matter. You wear whatever you like, and I will keep that Chanel 19 bag in my closet because I adore it. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing and click the notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my videos. And if you're not done watching, I'm gonna leave you 2 videos right here in case you wanna check them out. Thank you and see you on the next one. Bye!